So happy to be with you all today. So happy to be participating in this climb. Wow, what a phenomenal program that you've already been participating in. And you're in for a great treat because we're going to talk about how to crack the code, because there is a code. You're going to learn the code to unleash your as well as your team's potential. Because truly, by the end of this session, this little segment here, you're going to have such a clear understanding that your leadership in your current position determines not just your success, the success of your entire team. So we're going to be talking about conquering the complexity and the change that I know we are all going through. You're going to learn how to understand where you are now, why you are where you are, and importantly, how to get to someplace else that you might prefer to be. Going to talk about embracing where you are, because why resist reality, right? Because that's just kind of futile, and to respect it. You know, to respect yourself, to respect your team members. I have a philosophy that people show up and do the best they can, given what they know, given how empowered they are, given your organization's vision, mission, values drive behavior. So to respect the entire team for what they've been able to achieve today. And you're going to learn how to shift that, because we are in unprecedented challenges. And as far as I can tell, it's not going to be changing anytime soon. And you are in control of how you engage and how you interact and what you do about it. So I'm going to say it really boldly, your ability to improve your own leadership skills are critical to the success of your team and your company. Now, as they go along, be thinking about your organization, because you might be the owner, you might be the CEO, you might be the leader of your division or your area, your department. So whatever area of responsibility you have, put that hat on and be thinking about that as we proceed. Because I'm going to talk a lot about energizing for engagement. What your team members want from you, what statistics have told us, what survey after survey have told us, they want your energy and they want hope. So they want you to shore it up, to have that can-do spirit, to energize the group and bring that hope that things are as good as they are right now and they're going to get better. Because hope, while I say hope is not a business strategy, it is an operating system. And hope springs eternal. And to create that culture that performs at peak potential, it's going to be about connecting with your own leadership style. And we're going to talk a lot about that, and connecting with each individual team member one-on-one to capture the best they have to offer, so that their engagement is at such a level, they become ambassadors, because they feel your business together is their business. So they're ambassadors. They say positive things. They see themselves staying for a long time. And that's going to happen through your communication. So communication is at the linchpin of this formula that we're going to be talking about. So when I talk about improving your leadership skills, it's adjusting and adapting your style to create that connection and that communication. So you might be thinking, well, I just am who I am. I can't be somebody else. Not going to suggest you'd be anybody other than yourself. Authentic, transparent. And in this formula, you'll learn at different stages of growth, different leadership skills are essential to bring out your best and the best in your team. So we'll talk about how to do that and what that looks like. Because there is this concept of the law of the lid, and it comes from the 21 irrefutable laws of success. And it goes like this: you are the lid of your team's potential. You are the lid of your own effectiveness in bringing out the best in others. So what can you do about that to raise your own bar, to raise the bar so that your team members can perform at their highest? That's what I'll go back to. The success of the organization is right at this moment on your shoulders, and you're going to learn how to do that because you can learn. You know, there's that old adage of, are leaders born that way, or can they grow into being charismatic and being dynamic and being that visionary? And absolutely, you can learn how to be the leader that brings out the best that you want to be and feel really good about yourself. So let's get into why I call this a formula and how to tame the complexity and the chaos. In this model, there are 7 stages for entrepreneurial growth. And the reason I call this entrepreneurial growth is that the US government says that organizations less than 500 employees are entrepreneurial organizations. So if you take a look at this model, the 7 stages are based on the number of employees at each stage. And the names are very specific. So you have startup, 1 to 10 employees. Ramp up, 11 to 19. Delegation, 20 to 34. You see there, professional. Integration, strategic, and then visionary, finally at stage 7, 161 to 500 employees. So this model gives you what I'm going to call a crystal ball into the future. It gives you a roadmap, and it gives you a flashlight to see what's going to be coming around the curve, around the bend, no matter what's going on. This model teaches you how to control what you can control, because there's a lot that we can't. As you are well aware, what can you control? Your culture, how you show up, how you align your team, and how you bring out the best of engagement. So let's use Gallup. I like to use numbers. Numbers are the language of business. And Gallup's been around, I'm sure you're aware of it, for decades, in their assessments of actively engaged, simply moderately engaged, and then actively disengaged, right? So we look at, per Gallup, that 34% of your employees are actively engaged, what that looks like for you. So if you consider, I've taken an average here of what stage of growth you might be in, how many employees. So stage 1, let's say you'll have 6 employees. You have 2 actively engaged, 4 have checked out. Whew. When you look at the numbers, it's concerning. Let's say you're at the higher end. Let's say you're stage 4 with 50 employees. 17 is all actively engaged. 33 are just either punching the time clock or sabotaging intentionally so that the top performers don't have the ability to be at their best because there's drag being created. So I'll give you a minute to just eyeball that and let that sink in. It's like, wow, what can you do about it? There are tools. There are things you can do about it. And as we dive into this, there are rules that govern the 7 stages of growth. Let's start with the first one. Movement to another stage begins when you land in a specific stage. So let's say you just landed in stage 3, you're on the cusp of going to stage 4. What I'm going to be walking and talking you through is you want to be prepared and understand this is the flashlight. This would be the headlight into the future of where you're going. Second rule, what you don't get done in one phase does not go away. That's the beauty of this model. It's a diagnostic tool. It lets you know what is going on, why it's going on, and what you can do about it to shore yourself up. So when I take organizations through this, and let's say they've transitioned to stage 4, and there's specific details of stages 3 and 2 that they haven't done. Ooh, got to go back. It's like building a house, right? You don't just start with the roof. You've got to start with the pilings and the foundation, the concrete, and then the sticks that go up before you put on the drywall. And so what you don't get done, you got to go back and fix it, or you're on shaky foundation, shaky ground to move forward. Third time will make a difference. You might be in a rush, you might not be in a rush. You get to determine the pace of which you want to grow. This is a growth formula. It's all around where am I? Where do I want to get to? And yet, if we take a look at, if you aren't growing, you're dying. That's not everybody appreciates that. And yet there's always nods of, yeah, that's true. That's true. Because why do we say that? Your competition's going to be growing around you. Let's say you're in stage 1 and you just want to stay in stage 1. Well, that's still going to be about innovating at that stage because the world keeps going. Technology keeps advancing. What might you need to do to stay current? Whatever time you want. There's no pressure on time. However, a lot of folks want to keep that growth mode going. And if you're not growing, you're dying. Ooh, let's move on from that, huh? So let's just talk briefly about each of the stages, just a little bit, so you can kind of get a better understanding, a little bit of a dive. If you're in a stage 1 startup, 1 to 10 employees, absolutely CEO or leader, or if it's a department for you, centric. You're at the helm. You have, you know your employees well. You have good relationships, ideally. Perhaps you're still trying to figure it out as people come in, and you're navigating all the shifts and changes. Chaotic, we say hire for fit, and it's all about startup. It's about profitability, and you'll see in the model, profit is indeed the number 1 focus when you're in startup. It might be that you don't really want to grow beyond having 8 employees. You still got to keep that innovation going to stay relevant, to stay current. So it might be growth for you looks very different than a true startup who wants to navigate up to bigger organization size, greater reach, whatever that might look like. Stage 2 is called ramp up. You're up to 19 employees, still owner, CEO, manager centric. So you're still at that lead, you're still at the helm. The focus is, however, no longer on just surviving, it's more on thriving. And you want to start thinking beyond your own span of control. You want to start thinking about having the right people in the right places. So you're going to start with that delegation. Because when you get to stage 3, it's called delegation, and it's the hardest leap for organizations to make, is that jump between 2 and 3. Quite frankly, some don't make it. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. Because you got to delegate. It's let go to grow. You're now up to 34 employees, way too big to be sitting around the kitchen table in the lunchroom. Got to delegate that control and empowerment. And some people, quite frankly, are not able to release that control. Are you? Are you in this stage? Does this resonate with you? Or if you're beyond this stage, can you think back to when you were and the lessons and how tough it was to have that level of trust in your team members, that it's now enterprise centric, not all based on you? And delegate. And so often people tell me, well, I delegate it and then it's not done right and I take it back. I was working with a manager a few weeks ago and she said, yeah, I tell my team 90% is good enough. Like, that's great, because done is better than perfect, right? When you're delegating, you got to let people learn. That's the human condition. We learn through trial and error, not by taking it back and micromanaging. And she says, yeah, but when they don't get that last 10% done, I get busy doing it. I'm like, no, that's not letting go to grow. That's disempowering. So that's why we say staff buy-in is through that delegation, that empowering and demonstrating you trust your team to do the job. Oh yeah, look at that, staff leaves. There can be quite a bit of turnover as you transition into stage 3, because if they're not given roles and the expectations and the clarity of their span of control, they'll leave. They'll go someplace else. So this can be the toughest stage for us. Stage 4, professional. Wow, bumping up almost to 60 employees. This is where hiring professional managers. There could be some of your team members who don't make this transition, because you really have to up level. While stage 3 is about people focus, stage 4 is all about processes and up leveling your systems, your procedures. You got a big team that you're at the helm of. You want to build confidence into those different groups. You definitely want to shore up and make sure that you trust each person at the helm of different aspects of your organization. I almost wanted to say silos, but that's what you don't want. You don't want silos. You want professional managers who communicate with each other and help to make your job, your life easier. Some can make the leap, that's for sure. And you will be able to determine that. Stage 5, we call integration, because boy, you're bumping up there almost 100 employees. And your job as the manager, the leader, the CEO, the president is to integrate those different areas. I say to get all those managers and all those teams to play nice in the sandbox together, to integrate, to unify, to align the organization to your vision, operating to achieve the mission, and living by the values. I'm going to say it again, values drive behavior, what's acceptable for performance standards, right? So that there's that clarity. And then there's holding one another accountable to what's acceptable for your organization. Training here is critical. If you haven't already put emphasis on training, and I love that RMS is all about training, because in this model, it's about people having the skills, getting the training ongoing to up level their abilities to keep driving for that growth. That customer-centric, how to deliver on service. So let's keep going. Let's get to strategic. Your perspective shifts because you're bigger now. It's strategic. You're operating by a plan. Oh, and I can't tell you how many organizations I walk into, and they're already at 100 and some employees, and there's no business plan. There's no growth plan. There's no, I call it a profit plan rather than a budget. Because so often people think budget, don't want to do that. And yet what's a budget? It's your plan for making a profit. So it's important at this stage to be very strategic, because you're over a lot. You're aligning a lot of people, and you want to make sure that there's that efficiency going on throughout the organization. And then I'm going to go back to alignment. It's a lot about alignment. Finally, stage 7, you're visionary. You're a cruise liner, not a speedboat. And boy, that reminds me of a quote from a client. I don't want to be a cruise liner. I like being a speedboat. They have 260 employees. I said, oh, we got some work to do. You are a cruise liner. You cannot just turn on a dime. You've got too many people and too many divisions and too many areas that that communication is so important to make sure everyone has that clarity. There's that staff buy-in again. You know, at the visionary level, it's your job to ignite that fire of inspiration, to not allow people to rest. You know, people can hide out at this size of an organization, and that's just another drag on your effectiveness and the results that you want to achieve. So there's a little highlight on each of the 7 stages. Hopefully you saw yourself and your team in one of these areas. And so let's just touch on the outcomes that you can expect when you understand and the stages of growth and what your responsibilities are, because we're really gonna talk a lot about your responsibilities from this point on. The clarity, the clarity in how to move forward, the clarity of what got you to where you are. So why are we here? Importantly, what are we going to do about it? And what are we going to do different to achieve different results? You know that Einstein quote, right? What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing, thinking you're going to get different results. And how does that serve any of us, right? So that clarity is pivotal. Alignment. I know you're going to say, Terri, that's one of your favorite words. It is. Aligning your management team. So often they're off on their own agendas. I'm going to go, they want to do the best they can, and yet they're in silos. So aligning your leadership team so that the rest of the organization becomes aligned as well. Engagement to deliver results. People understanding what to do, why to do it, how what they do impacts the organization. That will contribute to engagement. And you want them to show up, shine, and serve. You might want to write that down. That's pretty pithy. Show up fully, shine brightly, and serve wholeheartedly. That's what you're going for. Communication flows. Communication. Oh, this is one of my favorites too. Communication is the lifeblood of your organization. It is. Communication is the lifeblood. So when communication breaks down, it's like putting a tourniquet on some part of your body. It stops the flow of blood. And what happens then becomes very difficult to use that body part. So a lot of communication in this formula. And finally, trust. Here's how you know if you have trust going on in your organization. How much buy-in do you have? How much accountability for delivering results? How little finger pointing and gossiping, and kibitzing and talking behind people's back. That's not trust. And you really want an organization deep in trust, because that's how you're going to deliver stellar customer service as well as profits for your organization. So there you go. Let's talk about a little bit more back to the formula. You'll see that there's a transition zone. And I've pulled up here the flood zone. And if you look at the model, the flood zone happens between 1 and 2, 3 and 4. You'll see there it's the blue. Why is it important to understand these transition zones? Because in our businesses, just as in nature, chaos happens at different times. We might as well identify it. We might as well call it out. Might as well get comfortable with the messiness of it, because it's going to happen from time to time. It just is. And in this formula, this is when it's going to happen. So here's what a flood zone is. It's a transition between the different stages that requires bearing up for an increase in the quantity of activity. The quantity, there's more to do. Here's what so often happens. We throw more people at it. There's more to do, not enough people. Your managers are saying, I need an increase in staffing in my department. Please don't do that. What's important is to get to the root cause of the quantity of activity to make sure that the people you already have the skills to do it, and what's really needed. Get to the root cause of it. It's going to happen. Your brain's going, yeah, that's what was going on when this was happening and that was happening and when we were transitioning. So it's one thing to know about the flood zone. Then there's the wind tunnel. Occurs between, you'll see there, between the 2 and 3, 4 and 5, 6 and 7. It's different than the flood zone. Wind tunnels occur and it requires letting go of methodologies, the way we've done things around here. As you grow, as you add people, you increase complexity, you most likely increase patient count or customer count or patron count. Things get more complex and old systems have to be replaced. Now, here's the key. There's a high probability that your team members aren't going to come to you and say, hey, we're in a wind tunnel. We need to change up this system. Most likely, it's going to be on you as a leader to ask higher level questions. Seek to understand. When you perceive the chaos is going on, this is about taming that chaos, right? What do we need to do different? Might be you need to spend a little money. When you're up leveling, you're embracing new methodologies. That's a function of growing your business, of being in a growth mode. So let's take a look at what else could be going on that you want to be aware of. We call it hidden agents. Those things that are going on that lie beneath the surface, that there's something going on, you just can't put your finger on it. It looks different on the surface than is really going on underneath the surface. And it just doesn't get solved because addressing it didn't identify the real root cause. This predictive formula helps you get to the essence of what is under the surface. What's sabotaging that you thought you solved this problem only to have it, pop up, right? Like whack-a-mole. It's business whack-a-mole. How often do we play business whack-a-mole thinking we're getting ahead only to realize there's that darn problem again? And if these issues aren't resolved at some point, they constrict. I'm going to go back to create that drag. They're that tourniquet on your organization now and into the future. So let's touch base on a few of these hidden agents in the time we have together. 3 gates of focus. And it's important to understand which gate you will want to be focused on at each stage of your growth based on how many employees you have. The first gate is your profit revenue gate. Prioritizing profitability. Prioritizing teaching your team the importance of profit. I remember working with the group, they had 5 pharmacies, and my job was to help educate in this unifying fashion that profit wasn't a 4-letter word. Profit's a 6-letter word. Leader is a 6-letter word. And so to really educate your team members on the importance of profit, not service, and yet profit pays the bills. Profit keeps the lights on. So that profit revenue gate, people gate. Investing in your people. Your people determine your success through your leadership. So investing and up-leveling the people on your team. And then the process gate, the systems, the protocol, the procedures, training people. Because how often do we roll out new procedures and nobody embraces them? And then we get frustrated. We're like, why aren't they doing it? I've told them what to do. It's like, yeah, did you teach them the processes? So it's really essential. So let's take a look here. What stage are you in right now? for your division, your area, your company, and take a look. Profit is your number one focus at stages 1 and 2. What's interesting, I put profit in yellow because in so many organizations where I work, the team members do not understand how to embrace that mindset. It's not one or the other, right? It's either make money or be of service. No, it's both. Let's marry that up. Look at profit only goes to number 3 when you get to stage 7. Interesting. So it's very formulatic as to where you want to focus your attention. Might you want to take some time and think about that and perhaps shift it? Hidden agents. You see there what I have up there? That's a builder, right? Here's a definition of builder mindset. Builder creates new ideas, finds new ways to expand the organization. Very risk tolerant, very growth focused. Is that you? Is that somebody that's on your team? Very different than a protector mindset. Cautious, prefers to slow things down, risk adverse. You need both. Think of Walt Disney and Roy. Yeah, you already know that, right? Walt, builder, creator, grow the enterprise. He wasn't really going in with great documentaries on his life. He wasn't really going very far until Roy got involved. That protector, that mindset to put systems in place and procedures in place. Which are you? Which is your right-hand person? Who on your team might be protectors? Because in this formula, whichever stage you're in, again, it all goes back to your number of employees. Stage 1, you better be in builder. We often call this the confidence caution ratio as well. Stage 3 is a 1-to-1. Look at stage 4. More builder, the highest level of protector. Why is it? Because that's that professional stage where you want to empower your managers, and yet you've got to be a little bit more protector to make sure that they're doing things in alignment with your vision and your structure. So might you need to modify your approach? Enough builder, too much protector? If you have too much protector, your team members are going to feel a little micromanaged. So you don't want too much protector when you really ought to be in that builder mode. So there's a lot of science that goes on behind this. Another hidden agent can be, what face of a leader should you have on? Would be ideal for your stage of growth. Visionary is one face. Visionary, let's go, at the helm of the ship with that telescope out there. Here's where we're going, and rallying the troops and getting the inspiration going. Important face to wear. Manager face. We say visionaries make sure the right things are getting done. Managers make sure things are getting done right. Manager, very important. To empower people, to grow people. And then specialist, working in the business versus on the business. If you started your own business, no doubt you started it because you were a specialist and really good at what you were doing, and you wanted to then branch into that entrepreneurial spirit of growing it to another level. At each stage of growth, there is a different face for you to be wearing. I've highlighted in red some of the biggest shifts that have proven to be challenging. So if you look at stage 3, remember stage 1 and stage 2, CEO-centric, manager-centric, leader-centric. When you get to stage 3, you're enterprise-centric. What that means you're more managerial. Look at stage 4, right? Stage 3, delegation, stage 4, professional, because you're growing your people, you're developing the systems, processes are most important at stage 4. That's why I say that's a big leap from 2 to 3, and then to go even more manager in stage 4. Oh gosh, it was a short bit ago. I was working with 2 different clients. They're both stage 3. Well, they just entered stage 3, getting ready. They were, remember, what you don't get done in one stage doesn't go away. And when you land in a stage, you start preparing for the next stage. And they were both visionary to the core. They were visionary leaders. And one of the owners said, I am not interested in spending 60% nor 70% of my time as a manager. It's not what I'm interested in. It's not my genius work. They brought on a CEO so that the owner could continue to be visionary. Let somebody else do the managerial stuff. My other client said, I want to learn how to be a real CEO of my business. Same model, same conversations, different intent, different vision, desire for his organization. And I can't tell you it's been easy, he's still in it, but allocating now 70% of his time to leading the organization, all based on the importance of knowing what will be most effective for your leadership style at each stage of growth, how to show up, shine, and get your team members to serve. So, what is your leadership style? Ideally, you'll have this handout. If you do now would be a great time to take a look at it. Visionary leadership style, because what I'd like you to do is to contemplate which is your lead style. So if you were to take a look at each of these styles, and I'll walk you through them. Visionary style, coaching, affiliative, democratic, pace setting, commanding. And if you had to have it tally up to 100%, what percent of you would you say is a visionary? Looking into the future, creating that big picture. What percent is that genius work, your capability, your interest, how you allocate your time? What percent would you say? Coaching. Coaching leaders communicate a belief in people's potential and an expectation, very much like a coach to a football team, or I like hockey, so, a sports team, coaching, bringing out the best in the team players. It's not about the coach. It's about aligning each player to the vision and the mission and scoring and being the best they can be. How much of your time, how much do you fancy yourself a coaching leader? Affiliative. Affiliative style is all about the people. It's all about helping people to be their best through their relationships with one another. We sometimes say that the relationship is more important than the goal. So how does that define who you are? Democratic. Everyone gets a vote. Fair. Everyone's important. And it's good as long as you set it up that someone is still going to be making the decision. That just because you get a vote doesn't mean your vote's going to be the winning vote. But so there are some times where democratic is the style you really want to lean into. So how much of your ability would you say, I'm basically a democratic leader? And then pace setting. Drive, go, go, go. Pace setting is a great style when there is something that really needs to get done. Like you need to crank up the energy, right? Energy and hope, we're going for it. And yet it's a style that if used all the time is exhausting and creates burnout. So with each of these styles, there's an appropriate time to use it. And there's an appropriate time to not use it, especially commanding. I remember in a leadership class, there was one fellow who said, yeah, I'm a commanding leader. And we're like, ooh, baby. So, he was like, yeah, no, I need to change. It's that old school military approach, right? When I say jump, you say how high. And yet even the military is going away from commanding. And yet if you have an urgency, if there's a crisis, somebody better step up and take control and take command. So if you were to give yourself 100%, what would be your number one? What would be your number two? Number three? Because you know where I'm going with this, right? In this model, how do your scores align? Look at there. Visionary for sure at stage 1 and at stage 7. Stage 7 is actually called visionary. But look at coaching. That is the model for today, this era in the business world, right? Coaching, assisting your team members to be the best that they can be based on who they are. Gosh, there's so much we could talk about this. Playing to their strengths, not to overcome, oh, this is your weakness, you got to shore that up. It's like, no, that's not the headspace today. It's about helping people to blossom and use their best abilities. So, a few questions for you. What issues could you be facing today based on your current leadership style? Maybe you would say, yeah, I'm a visionary. Well, it's like saying I have a hammer and everything's a nail. Or I'm a commanding and every problem I'm going to step in and be commanding. It doesn't work that way. If you want to be the best leader and crack the code of bringing out the best in your team. Another question. What leadership style are you committed to improving? If I were to guess, I would say coaching, since that's a number one style for so many of the stages. And what style do you need to stop? It might be, I'll give you an example, the affiliative, like it's all about the people, which is a great style used in conjunction with other styles. So it might not be to stop it totally. It might be to stop relying on that as your only go-to style when there are 6 styles. This comes from Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. And you can Google and get a lot more about that because it's statistically significant, the amount of research that's gone into these 6 different styles. So I threw in a couple bonus slides because it's like, wow, I really want to address a couple key points for you. And then number one, and you're going to say, God, this is so obvious, Terri, that good moods, your good mood, showing up in a good mood increases engagement and lowers turnover. Boy, that's like, right there. I'm going to be so bold to say, as a manager, as a leader, as an owner, whatever your title is, you do not have the luxury of showing up in a bad mood. Your mood really does set the tone for your organization. And you're listening to this crack the code, right? To bring out the best potential, to be the best leader that you can be. It really does start with showing up in a good headspace of good energy and can do and hope that we're all in this together, especially at this crazy time that we're still navigating through. Yeah, good moods really, really make a difference. Don't underestimate that at all. It sounds so simple. It's so important. Number 2, happy people are more engaged and create happy profits. So if you're on this part of the country, I'm in Denver, we have a brew pub, a micro brew. It started out really small when I was introduced to them, Odell Brewery. I used to live next door to one of the founders, And she shared with me, and this is something I've never forgotten because they've grown exponentially. She said, yeah, we have happy brewmasters. I'm like, okay. She goes, yeah, happy brewmasters have happy team members that work with them. And happy beer makes for happy customers, which makes for happy profits, all because we have happy brewmasters. I'm like, I love that formula. That, how some things just stick. That has stuck over the course of 20 some years. So how happy are your people? Happy is important. As is important how your people feel. Do they feel happy? Do they feel concerned? Are they always having to dodge the mood of somebody, or is there somebody who's allowed to talk negative in your organization? That one bad apple, that old adage. If you're allowing negativity, if you're allowing someone to talk negative behind someone's back, you're sabotaging the performance of your team. And look at a 20 to 30% boost based on how people feel. I had to include that information. That's just so important. And then number 4, this, right? Every 1% improvement in a service client, customer centric, 2% improvement in revenue. Oh my gosh. Yeah. This morning has been invaluable for you and your future. Your future is bright. Right? All based on leading, how you choose to show up as a leader. So here's some questions to help you actionize. What conversations, either coming out of this whole morning, coming out of this lead segment, what conversations are you committed to going back and having? It's one thing to feel good after a conference. Yet I go, okay, so what difference is it going to make for you and your team? What are 3 ideas? What you're going to put a little star by? 3 ideas that you want to share with your team. What one specific action are you willing to commit to do within the next 24 hours? That's where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? Like, what are you really committed to doing different to get those different results? And then finally, as a bonus, if you'd like a white paper report on your stage of growth, go to Terri Norvell, just my name.com, lowercase BGF. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to open it up. There's no sales funnel. You won't be, there's like nothing other than you just get this. You can get all the different stages because perhaps you've got different stage organizations that you want to share this with. It'll ask for your name, number of employees, and then you'll get in and you can have all 7 reports. And I've synthesized entire books. There's a book on each stage of growth that the white papers are about, 12 pages that you can, get it much, much more quickly. So here's what the map looks like, the matrix. What we talked about just so briefly is just the tip of the iceberg. And it is absolutely transformative to help you tame the chaos, shine headlights into the future, uncover and solve what are your core real issues. What are those sabotaging agents that you want to be paying attention to so you can create scalable, I love that, sustainable growth through aligning your team to be more customer centric and grow your profitability in such a positive way. And this conference has just given you so many tools. I feel blessed to have been with you, and I look forward to talking with you more in further detail in the coming months. Thank you.